There, damn it.
We missed it.
You missed the, I thought I had hit record like 10 seconds ago when we heard like what sounded like an elephant got loose in the parking lot.
I was like, the fuck was that?
We just have to be very, very, very quiet to review this movie very silently before, before whatever warthog just stampedes into the car and decides to review the movie with us. This was the winner of the Schwarzenegger poll that we put up. We actually put it up like a month or so ago. I'm sorry, it just took a little while to get to it. We were moving. I had like 1,000 conventions in June, and we're still in the middle of our Indiegogo campaign right now. So it took us a sec to get used to get to it, and doing it this week really worked out because we're recording this on Monday night. You're probably watching this on Thursday or Friday maybe, because by the time you're watching this, I'm going to be in Austin, and I get back on Sunday. So there's a lot of movies that come out this weekend that I'm going to have to wait till I get back to town to go see. So doing an episode like this really works out because at least we have an episode of Midnight Screenings up. And I was not, which is usually the case for a lot of these polls, I wasn't expecting The Running Man to win. If I was to have taken a guess on the Schwarzenegger poll, I would have guessed Kindergarten Cop. And for a while, Kindergarten Cop actually was winning. And I thought, like, well, if Kindergarten Cop doesn't win, maybe Last Action Hero. I didn't want to take the chance on Junior winning, so I didn't even put Junior on the poll. But I put Twins on there, and Twins came down pretty low. But for a little bit, it was actually going back and forth between Last Action Hero and not Running Man, but Kindergarten Cop. But then Running Man got like 2 or 3 votes ahead and just kind of stayed there till the very, very end. And I'm actually really glad the Running Man won, honestly. Like, I didn't think I knew Terminator wasn't going to win, or like Conan.
That was the one I wanted to see.
Terminator? Yeah. I knew that one's that popular, and typically, it's not that the other movies on here were unpopular, but it's like the Terminator. I didn't think that was going to win because people have seen enough reviews of the Terminator, but I'm like, okay, well, The Running Man, I guess there aren't a whole lot of reviews necessarily up for The Running Man. It's a great fucking movie. I hadn't seen it in a while, so I'm actually really glad this won. Because I was like, I haven't seen The Running Man in a while, and I knew you would really like The Running Man.
When you explained the premise to me, I was like, okay, no, that sounds like something I would really like. And although I did want to see Terminator a lot because I've never seen it, and I know how popular it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I didn't think it was going to win, but we can always watch that on our own, too. So.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
But I did want to see it because it's just so popular, and it's like, you haven't seen Terminator? Yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't. It's just, I mean, it's not like you haven't seen Star Wars, or maybe some people might compare it to that, but yeah, I've never seen it.
The Running Man is a good, it's a good one to be like, okay, how many Schwarzenegger movies have you actually seen? Like,
I saw Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
Kinda saw it. The Sixth Day? Sixth Day, yeah. The Sixth Day. I was like, was it the 7th day? Or the 6th day?
Did you see True Lies or Batman and Robin? Surely you saw that.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't even see Tim Burton's
That's
one.
another one I did not put on the poll either, because I was like, there's like an 80% chance that might win.
What was it, like, Ice to See You?
Yeah.
I love this about this movie, is that I've never realized how much he uses puns.
Oh, yeah, that's one of his trademarks.
And I didn't realize that was a trademark of his, because I've only seen a couple.
You knew Stick Around, and that's from Predator.
Yeah, because for some reason, it's a long story, but somehow I stumbled upon this weird, like, clip of him saying that.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Stick around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a long story, so it wouldn't make sense if I explained it to you, but...
I'm on Google looking for things that stick to things. What's this?
My little sister had, like... She was like, oh, look up this thing. It's like... I thought it was funny, and we looked up stick around, and that was the first thing.
Look at this crazy alien footage from the 80s. I think this is a movie.
No, it was coming from something else, so it wouldn't make any sense if I explained it to you, because I don't even remember, but, anyways,
The Running Man was the Running Man is 31 years old now. It came out in 1987, and it was one of the. I was 6 years old when this movie came out, and so this was around when I was really starting to watch some action movies like this, and so I remember this movie coming out in theaters. There had been I had not seen The Terminator by this point. The Terminator I saw later, but The Running Man is one of the earlier Schwarzenegger movies that I have the earliest memory of being really, really, really advertised. Before then, the Schwarzenegger movies that I had at least seen clips of or knew about, they had already been on video. This one I remember when it came out into theaters, and didn't see it until it was on late, either on video or HBO. I can't remember, but no, the Running Man is, it combines so many things that I love. For one, I love game shows. We watch game shows a lot. We watched probably just 4 game shows today before we sat down to watch this movie, which seemed appropriate. Hell, one of the shows we were watching was Family Feud. Yeah. Not a Richard Dawson episode, but to set you up for going into this movie, I did show you some Richard Dawson clips. Richard Dawson was the host of Family Feud for a while, like in the 70s, a bit in the 80s too.
He was perfect for this.
Oh my god. Oh, yeah.
He's like one of the best villains I've seen in a long
Richard
time.
Richard Dawson is one of, if not my favorite game show host of all time. I mean, he's a beloved game show host for a reason. Like, Richard Dawson is just fucking awesome. And if there's one thing I love, it's like stunt casting when it comes to villains. Like, whenever you see an actor play a bad guy in a role, and like that's kind of like the gimmick, you know, like you're not used to seeing them in this kind of role. Like, okay, like Robin Williams in Insomnia, or he's played a lot of villains now, but at the time when Broken Arrow came out, it was kind of new for John Travolta to be playing a villain.
Yeah.
And with this movie takes place in the future. It takes place in 2017.
The future!
Yeah, it takes place 30 years in the future, in which government is really kind of taking control over everything. They've censored all forms of arts, and even the judiciary branch has its own entertainment division. So the government is really dictating not just like food and wealth and all that, but also forms of entertainment. And one of the ways that they keep people in this really dirty, grungy society where people are just starving, like everything's just really grungy and dirty out there, and the entertainment division keeps the masses entertained from this show called The Running Man, that is hosted by Richard Dawson, who plays his character named Damon Killian, and they take convicts and they give them like a chance for like a pardon or rewards or like a commuted sentence, and they go through this arena, this like 4-block arena where there's these like American gladiators / like wrestler types that come out to try to kill them, and if they survive they get a chance for their freedom. And Richard Dawson is the host of this show. And one of the coolest things about this movie is Richard Dawson is having the time of his life playing this character. He is absolutely playing up, like, not only his own image, but also just the image of just kind of sleazy used cars salesman type game show host.
Yeah, he's been like one of the best villains I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
And he's not playing it up where it's like, that's too much or anything. It was like the perfect mix of it. You know? It was just a really, like you said, playing up his own image, and also being very sleazy.
When you see him behind the scenes in the movie, because when he's on camera hosting The Running Man, he's like, you would kind of expect Richard Dawson to be hosting a show like this. Like, he even does, like, his trademark where he kisses the woman on the cheek. Like, he does that at one point in this movie. And having his arm around people, like, when he's talking to them. Right, like, like, he does a lot of, he's, when you see him hosting The Running Man, he's hosting it, like, very much like you'd kind of expect Richard Dawson to. But when you see him, like, behind the scenes, where he's just, like, getting people fired, like, he's just smoking, like, just cursing and berating people, he's not doing it cartoonish. Like, he's not doing it to where...
He's being like, well, I'm playing a character, and I'm not, like, really like this guy.
You can picture this kind of, like, really sleazy TV personality existing like this behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I really like that, and it reminded me a lot of Requiem for a Dream, where it's like, be excited, be excited. Yeah. Or, like, like that TV game show satire that is really...
Hunger Games.
Yeah, Hunger Games. Which, I was telling you this during the movie. I was like, okay, this is probably one of the better versions I've seen of this in a while. Because Hunger Games did that, and...
The Condemned, Gamer.
Yeah. I was like, this is a really... one of the better ones I've ever seen. I like the style of it, and I also liked... It made me really appreciate the second episode of Black Mirror.
Oh.
Because you really liked it a lot more than I did.
Yeah, the one with the American Idol type.
Yeah. And at first I was like, no, I liked it fine. But now I'm like, okay, I appreciate it a lot more now after this. Because I'm like, okay, I can see a lot of it being inspired by this movie. Maybe. You think? No?
Yeah, I could see that. But sure, because I think there is a lot of movies that fall in that genre of like a future society, and here's a game show that is the product of this world. A lot of things have done that, and I do agree. I'm hard pressed to think of one that I like better than The Running Man that involve a game show like this. And there's a lot of fun. There's a movie called Death Row Game Show that's pretty fun, but like, and there's ones that are fun. I like The Hunger Games just fine. I do like this movie better. If anything, just alone for I like the style of this movie better, and in the action, there's things about The Hunger Games that I do really like. I like its satire of reality television and all that.
Watch it again.
I thought it did that well, but if there's one thing that this movie does heads or tail, like, just beyond better than The Hunger Games did, I can tell what's going on in the action scenes in this movie. And that first Hunger Games movie was so fucking shaky cam. Sorry, go ahead.
I was the right age demographic for when Hunger Games came out, but I'm going to be hated for saying this, but I really didn't care for it. Maybe I'd like it more because of the whole, like, game show aspect of it.
The whole reality show angle that it does?
Yeah, but the whole thing I didn't like about that was just, like, the style, like, the fashion sense and, like, the goofiness of it was just kind of annoying for me. And also, God, what's that guy's name? Liam Hemsworth was obnoxious.
He's like the worst part of those movies.
And I like the fact of a strong female lead character, but man, I just really couldn't get into it. And even like the last one, I still couldn't get into it. I don't know why. I guess it's just not for me.
I'll give you that, because they did a thing I hate, which is that they split it up into 2 movies when the movie could have been perfectly fine as a trilogy. The fashion sense in that I liked, because it was kind of like the future if the Bravo network took over. But what I like about this is they're both 2 wildly different things. I mean, one of them's based on a YA novel. This one's based on a Stephen King book.
Oh, I brought up also Maze Runner. Because I was saying, like, I like how 80s movies depict the future way more than modern day.
YA movie?
Not even just YA, but like a modern day depiction of the future. Because now it's just a YA thing. It's not even like a adult thing anymore. It seems like just all YA. It's like Maze Runner,
Divergent.
Hunger Games.
Yeah.
I don't really see, I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't really see any gritty adult version of a depiction of, like, this future.
Fury Road, which, I mean, but granted, that's a continuation of a series that started in 79.
And I like how this is just super gritty. I like the style of it, and sorry I cut you off.
It's fun, that's what we do on here. No, I agree, because in this, you see the glamour of the game show. You see all these dance numbers that they're doing. The like just this flamboyant game show host who's wearing this tux. He's stylish. There's money and glitz and glamour put into this. But then you see outside of it where people are just, they're dirty and smelly. There's steam coming up out of the ground. They're taking like all their savings and they're gambling it on this game show. And
they don't do that in these movies now. Like
where it's like a handsome apocalypse?
Yeah, everyone's handsome. And I'm like, well, you just got out of that really just fine with your hair still polished and everything. And everyone here is just dirty and gross. Right,
I mean, even Arnold Schwarzenegger, when Arnold Schwarzenegger comes, he's carrying that beam and you see his muscles on there. But he looks dirty. He's scraggly. Don't worry, I got this. Yeah, he's got like this beard going on, and it's and the movie it sets its world up really well in that like in a lesser movie like this, just one of them would have been like a hacker for no reason. In this, no, it sets it up why there's a hacker on their team. That's how they escape from prison to begin with. Yeah. Is that one of them knew how to break into the system and take the exploding necklaces off of them. Yeah. Like, and so, yeah, later on when one of them is a hacker and can kind of get into the satellite feed and lead into, and which will help out this resistance group, it sets it up for that at the beginning. And the movie has a lot of really competent people behind it who can do a movie like this. The movie's really nothing like the book. It's one of Stephen King's, like, Richard Bachman books, but... And it is a good book, but they're very different. The book really isn't written as like a Schwarzenegger action movie. They're very different from each other. But the movie really does work because you have like Steven DeSouza behind the script, who's worked on like Die Hard, Commando, 48 Hours. You got a writer who knows action and knows gravitas behind having a lead character. You have Paul Michael Glaser, who's the director of the movie, who has a past in television. He was Starsky on Starsky and Hutch. So you have a director who has a background in a television world, and this movie works. This movie has always worked for me. It's always been a fantastically entertaining movie, from just showing like an evolution of just kind of a society run amok, and also how it feeds into this game show, which seems to have maybe had an origin in like wrestling, but is then just sort of evolved into this death match. Mm-hmm. And when you watch this movie today in 2018, it works for me on a level that like Shock Treatment works for me. Like, in Shock Treatment, always been one of my favorite musicals, if not my favorite musical of all time. And when you watch it today, it's different than watching it in a movie like Shock Treatment. It's different than watching it in 1983. When you watch a movie like Shock Treatment now, and you see really how much it like predicted a lot of things. Yeah, how like Shock Treatment really predicted reality show celebrities, reality shows in general, and how you could really get famous from just doing nothing, and that and that feeding into your ego and becoming a completely different person. Like, you might set out to try to save your marriage, but you end up getting sucked into this reality show universe that just kind of drives you both even further apart. And when you watch this movie, they're both wildly different movies, but when you see different forms of entertainment now, whether it is reality television and even the crazier that game shows and competition shows have gotten. Not that I think that something like this would ever actually happen, but it works. It still works as satire. It still works as great satire.
It makes you think, you know, like,
yeah.
Okay, well, what does that make me, you know, or if I watched something like reality TV, or
when it's showing the fake commercials in the movie,
yeah,
and even before then, how like government is really using this show to kind of mask the fact that it's doing this censorship on all forms of arts, and because it has such a tight grip on what the audience is being fed, you have characters in this movie that don't really know anything about entertainment of the past. Like, people don't know what Star Trek is. They don't know what the guy that Richard Dawson's talking to on the phone, who doesn't know what Gilligan's Island is. But also, like, even the little commercials that it's showing, like where there's that funny part where it's called like climbing for cash, where the guy's
he's like climbing a rope
with dogs underneath him, and he's just climbing
rabid
for
dogs.
money. And it's like it is a funny gag, and it was a funny gag 30 years ago too. It's similar to RoboCop like that, where it's the future of like what we're being entertained by now, and it's still, RoboCop works when you watch it now for the same reason. This movie works when you watch it now for the same reason, where we've watched and seen previews for tons of shows where it's people just absolutely debasing themselves for money and humiliating themselves. So the satire really works when you're watching this guy just climb over these bloodthirsty dogs just trying to get cash.
Like, you probably haven't seen this as much as I have, but Matilda, it's like they're watching this game show, and it's like, Sticky for Mickey, and it's John Lovitz, and he's just in this tank, I guess has glue on him, and they just have money blowing up on him. He's just like... I like stuff like that. You would really like RoboCop. Yeah, I would like to watch that. If you like this, you'll really like RoboCop. Because this movie was a hit when it came out. This movie certainly has an audience, but I am glad that this got picked, because again, I don't think enough people really talk about this movie now. Like, I mean, yeah, people still talk about, like, of course, like Conan, The Terminator, Commando, Kindergarten Cop, like a lot of stuff like that. But The Running Man is a really smart science fiction film. It's in terms of Arnold's science fiction, it's an excellent double feature with Total Recall. Total Recall is one of his best movies. It does really like... It does like really amusing stuff that you would just sort of see in a movie like this of that time in the 1980s, whereas like it's showing footage that no one would have gotten like footage of. Like, for instance, Arnold's character, Ben Richards, it's just one thing. Where they're like... Yeah. When they did that, I was like, how did they get this footage? And it's exactly the same opening scene, like all like nicely shot and doing close-ups and different. I know, like when it's trying to frame Ben Richards. I love Arnold movies because like you just get used to, like, okay, this guy with this accent is named Ben Richards, but that's I'm pretty sure that's what he's named in the book as well. But like when it's showing like this event that framed Arnold for this murder, and it's showing the audience footage that they're like, okay, even if I can buy, for the sake of argument, that all right, there is cameras everywhere, so maybe like, let me try to wrap my head around, maybe there is a camera here, maybe there's a camera here. But when they slam his head on the ground and there's one that zooms up on his face, like, when it's... there's no way. Even if I can try to buy that, it still keeps in the shot that is a POV shot from him where the guy hits him in the face with the butt of a gun. It does. And I'll see you in hell. Maybe they have a camera. I mean, they do that now with cops, so, like, where they have, like, a POV cam. Sure. But... still, they do that a lot in this movie. I like it. It's funny. It's funny and it's amusing. Like later on when it's showing the
the guys that supposedly won the Running Man, and it's like the corpses you saw from earlier. Oh, and well, they explain when they map the image
Simply
on the.
Just do this.
That they explain. It's like, okay, all right. They at least explain that in dialogue how they map an image of Arnold's face over a stuntman so they can make it look like Jesse Ventura kills the stuntman.
But the corpses, I guess.
The corpses, like, I don't think they got a shot of them before Fireball blew up in there. There's things like that in the movie that are really, really fun. And I mean, it's a flaw, but it's a funny flaw. You just don't really think about that kind of thing when you're watching it 30 years ago.
I also like the fact where this blooming romance came out of nowhere at the very end. I was hoping that what was her name?
Maria Conchita Alonso.
Yeah, she,
Amber was her character's name.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot easier to say. Amber, like, I was hoping maybe she'd be like, you know, they just happened to be working together and like...
Not in 1987.
I know, but still. I was like, well, maybe, because it was getting this close. I was like, maybe they will. And then at the last second...
They exchange a couple looks before then.
Sorta.
It's still it's out of nowhere,
I guess they have this blue... Right after he kills the villain, and all this bullshit they went through, he's like, come here, and...
Why not?
I'm like...
I mean, wouldn't you?
No.
Really?
I don't find Arnold Schwarzenegger attractive.
I don't mean like, just if you were in that situation.
I mean, I guess there's no heat of passion going on though, like, and there's also no, I mean, maybe the adrenaline.
Yeah.
But that's the last thing on my mind. I'd be like, thank God I'm alive is more my first thought. I wouldn't be like...
They both had a couple of good kills, like between Arnold sending Damon killing down that chute, and
not together.
Dynamo. I know they were separate. That's what I mean. Like between him and Richard Dawson, and her and Dynamo, whose suit is just
electrical.
Incredibly lucky he's never gotten wet before.
I know. I was like, I guess his suit's electrical. You would think it'd be like battery powered.
The cast, even beyond even beyond Richard Dawson, just the casting of this movie is really, really fun. I mean, you have Yaphet Kotto in there is like one of the guys he escaped from prison with. One dude, I can't remember his name, a character actor, he had a funny line in Back to the Future 3, and he's in Short Circuit, the guy who played Weiss. That was a guy I always enjoyed when he popped up and stuff, and it was always usually for just like one or two lines he would pop up in a thing. And in this, he actually is one movie where they actually give him a lot of stuff to do before Dynamo electrocutes him. No. What was I saying? Jim Brown is in this as Fireball. You have Jesse Ventura, even like Sven Thorsen, who's in like every Arnold movie, is in this too. And so it's fun looking for him whenever you see an Arnold movie, because you know he's gonna pop. He was the security guard in the movie who had the line about steroids at the end.
Oh yeah.
Mick Fleetwood as the leader of the Resistance, whose name in the movie is Mick. So I can only, and he's kind of wearing old makeup in this, so I can only assume he is playing himself. Sort of like when Tom Petty showed up in The Postman, where Tom Petty shows up at the end of the Kevin Costner post-apocalyptic movie, and Kevin Costner's like, you look kind of familiar, and Tom Petty's like, oh, I used to be famous once. So I can only assume Tom Petty just survived this nuclear holocaust. And in this, I'm just assuming that in this future, our one hope is Mick Fleetwood of Fleetwood Mac. Ooh, Mick Fleetwood.
No, it's just so fucking hot, which is why I look so scraggly right now. I was like, I'm not putting makeup on an hour before I go to bed, because I just got back.
You say to me, like, am I gonna look okay? And I'm like, yes. You will.
Well,
you're always beautiful. When you wake up in the morning, you are beautiful. And I always look like me. No, I take that back. I don't always look like me. I happen to not have my goatee right now. But other than that, I look like me.
Except for more sweaty right now.
Yeah. Well, that's because, again, I'm talking about Mick Fleetwood.
Well, I didn't wear makeup to work. I'm like, what's the fucking point? I'm working
I say the same thing.
I'm working with kids and it's like 100 degrees. I'm just gonna sweat it off. Why the hell am I gonna put makeup on or do my hair?
I'm talking about the Baby Huey movie. Why am I gonna put on makeup to review this film? I probably, honestly, you know, there are some days where I probably would put on makeup for my job. I had to in some of the movies. Oh, thank you. Well, no, in some of the movies in Ninja the Mission Force, I had to wear that eyeliner around.
That's because that's...
Well, I forgot it was on until I went to a gas station, and it kind of smeared at that point, and the person was like, so who won the fight? And in my head, I'm like, was there some boxing match on earlier? I'm like, oh, my eye. I'm like, oh, it's just, I was just playing a ninja in a movie, clearly. Can't you tell? So you enjoyed, like, does this make you want to see even more Arnold movies after this?
I've always wanted to see Arnold movies. It's just, I've never been, there's so many movies I do want to see that I don't know which one to pick first. That's why this is a good poll thing for us, because that way I can pick one.
This is a good one to see first. Yeah, so, like, well, I mean, this movie, this Arnold, Stallone, all that, I mean, we're talking about my heroes, my childhood.
Well, there's also, like, shows I want to see, and other R-rated movies I want to see, like slasher movies I haven't seen yet, and they're too much. And then there's also the downtime I need, which is where I just want to watch Seinfeld or Parks and Rec or something game shows, something I don't need to think about. Like, I'm not going to go home and be like, oh, what's the next movie I want to watch that I haven't gotten to? Sometimes I just don't want to think. I just want to go home and watch a show I don't have to think about.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to be like, let me watch this Stallone movie I've been wanting to see.
Honey, you will not like Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. I keep telling you this. Aww. Please watch Nighthawks. It's a way better movie. It's a fantastic film.
That's the first on my list.
Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
I already saw your review of it.
No, I mean, this is the kind of movie I grew up watching. I mean, me and my dad, we had Running Man on tape. We watched it probably just as many times as we watched Commando and Predator, and we watched the fuck out of those movies. And I remember one time when this was before we had it on tape, and I rented this movie. I rented it from Second Cinema Video, and took it home, and, like, I don't know how many people remember, like, having a thing like this happen, but I rented it, and the copy of the tape I had just had one static line going right in the middle of it. Like, the rest of it looked fine, just one line of static right in the middle. And I remember the scene was on where Mick Fleetwood's cutting the necklace off of Arnold, and he's got the cigar, and my mom's sitting there just going like, well, there's just a line right the fuck across his face, isn't there?
That's really funny.
Yeah, and it was like, but, hey, you know, if that happened and it was a movie you loved, you still kept watching it. I remember fucking renting tapes where, like, the top of it, like, would be askewed to where it'd be just kind of like, the top of it would just be kind of slanted a little bit, but you kept watching it. You just had to get used to it. So if you haven't seen The Running Man,
someone who hasn't seen it before, I highly recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it that's my age or hasn't really seen any Arnold movies. I would highly recommend this one as one of the underappreciated ones. I would say pick this one over, like, Terminator, I guess, because, I mean, even though I haven't seen Terminator yet, I would say, like, this one...
Terminator's a great fucking movie.
No, okay, maybe that's not true. Maybe I watch this one next after Terminator or something, or Total Recall.
You definitely watch The Running. This movie holds up. It was great 30 years ago, and it's still great now. The themes of the movie still work. Like, even if you didn't maybe grow up with, like, Richard Dawson as a game show, even if you didn't grow up with Richard Dawson, he's still fantastic in this film. He is still a great fun villain in this movie. Yeah. He's so good that I could see somebody watching this movie not knowing who Richard Dawson is, who maybe wants to look him up.
Totally, because if you didn't tell me who he was, I probably would have.
Yeah, you didn't grow up with Richard Dawson. I did. Richard Dawson and Ray Combs on Family Feud. So yeah, but I mean, like, the satire still works. This futuristic society where, like, it's the government taking control of this game show, like, all of that still works. Like, of course you can tell it was made in the 80s, but I mean, of course you can, but whatever. So that just makes the thing even better. Like, it's I hesitate to use a word like dated, because that just seems like it's such a negative term.
Nah,
like,
yeah,
because, like, no, it's not. It's like anything that was made then, you can tell when it was made, no matter what decade you're watching something from.
It has its own style that you can tell what decade it's from.
It does. If anything, like, the choreography is better in this movie than in some other recent movies that I've seen that have themes to this. The fight choreography, the thing going through the chutes, which today would be CGI, and looking at it then,
that looked awesome.
It looks like they are just going right through these chutes in these little, like, fucking death cages.
Jesus, yeah, that was actually really scary.
Yeah, oh yeah, that shit was fucking intense. It fucking looks real.
Like, I can imagine, like, the anxiety before going through something.
Oh,
like
yeah, especially because they don't fucking know what's gonna happen when you go down in that goddamn thing, and neither does the audience watching this movie, because before then you've just seen, like, a trailer for the Running Man game show on, like, in the background of a couple scenes, or maybe a character's watching it on TV, and you see the stuff with Richard Dawson, like, behind the scenes, but when you're kind of discovering everything about this show along with the characters. And I do like that about the movie. Like, everything that like, Arnold and a couple of the others know about this show is just sort of from just little clips that they've seen on TV, and that's the same with the audience. So they're kind of discovering this along. Arnold, at least, is sort of seeing all this stuff for the first time along with the audience watching this film. So it's, the movie still works today. Like, it absolutely does. So if you haven't seen it, watch this movie, because it's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts about it?
Just that I'm fucking hot.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah. Like, well, conceited much.
I am sweating my ass off right now. Sorry, I didn't mean it like that. I have work really early tomorrow, and I was like, fuck no, I'm not doing anything with my hair or makeup. I am gonna look tomboy as fuck, and I'm gonna wear my pajamas.
You look beautiful.
Oh. Well, I just had to make sure, because people are gonna be like, oh, she looks weird.
No, God.
She looks different than normal.
The next poll will most likely be a Stallone one. Wasn't that what we said was going to be the next one?
I don't know.
It's too hot to think about these things right now, but I'm not putting that poll up right now, because I'm not... I'm going to wait until after the Indiegogo is over, because if you want to contribute anything to us, we are pushing for this Indiegogo on our next movie.
Yeah, please donate.
So yeah, please donate to that. Once the Indiegogo is over and we're done pushing towards that, we'll put up the polls again on a Patreon. Same with the Patreon requested midnight screenings. That'll be coming back once this whole thing with the sequel to the Cinema Snob movie on Indiegogo ends. So, all right, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks.